so welcome back to my channel, or our channel rather, because this is the channel for my husband and I. And today I wanted to do a story time about how my husband and I waited until we were married to have sex. So first of all, let me just say that a lot of people are doing this nowadays. We got Sierra and Russell. We got, what is the name of that other couple? I cannot think of them at the moment. Y'all know who I'm talking about. She wrote a book. She's like a very popular actress. Her name is like on the tip of my tongue. But yeah, she and her husband also waited. He's like some type of big pastor or something of that nature. And I just kind of wanted to share my story because this is something that a lot of women are definitely trying to do nowadays. And honestly, it's one of the best routes to go because I feel as if you really get to know the person that you are dating on a level way above than you normally would if you were, you know, having sex with them before marriage. So I'm going to jump right into my story. I had to go and run and put my wedding rings on because sometimes I forget to wear. I'm not going to lie. I'm not used to wearing like extravagant jewelry. So anyway, yeah. So I'm going to start from the beginning. My husband Tony and I, we did not start off, well, we started off really well, but it was not always a smooth path. And I will tell you, and anyone else who is on the journey of doing this is going to tell you it's not easy. It's not easy if you're a female. It's not easy if you're a male. It's just not easy in general. When I first met my husband, it was about 6 years ago. And I pretty much had decided at that point in my life, I had just broken up with a previous boyfriend, and I pretty much decided in my life at that point I wanted to become closer to God. So I started going to church more, and I was really kind of looking for the right church to go to. So I found the church. It was the one that my parents had, you know, kind of pretty much been going to. And I didn't take it upon myself to find my own church, but I'm going to get into that a little bit later. I pretty much just started going to the church that they were going to. Now, while I was at this church, I really kind of vowed to myself and to the Lord that I'm going to abstain and not have sex until marriage. And I was praying about it, and Tony and I had met on Match.com, and we had messaged each other for a couple of months back and forth. And when we met in person, it was just like, that is a different story, but it was like I just knew that he was going to be my husband. Like I felt such a strong connection with him that I had never felt with any other previous, you know, guy that I had dated. And this was like on the first date. So it was just like on the first date, like the Lord told me, this is going to be your husband. Now, of course, I didn't run and tell him that and go, oh yeah, boo, you cute, you real cute, we got a connection, you going to be my husband one day. No, I did not, you know, go all crazy and scare him off. I just kind of kept that in my spirit, kept it to myself, and I actually didn't reveal that to him until we were engaged because I still didn't want to, you know, scare him off. So after the Lord kind of revealed that to me, I kind of prayed on it and meditated on it. I even fasted because I really wanted to make sure that this was going to be my husband. Now, in the midst of Tony and I dating, that's his name, Tony, I don't know if I mentioned that, but we went ahead and we, you know, continued to date or whatever. And up until about a year into the relationship, he kind of started to get a little frisky, for lack of a better word. I mean, he's a guy and guys have needs. And, you know, in that point, I was kind of like, my faith kind of was not as where it needed to be. Like it was kind of, it was just kind of going like that, you know, like it wasn't where I needed to be faith-wise. So it was kind of, you know, seesawing or whatever, you know. And I was just kind of like, okay, well, you know, let's go ahead and do it. I've been with this man for a year. I don't want to lose him. And, you know, we slept together, and of course I felt the guilt of everything. And Tony knew that I had a close relationship with God, and Tony was not a believer. Like, I, had told him a couple of things about my faith, but Tony was not a believer. So I was dating someone that was unequally yoked to me. But like I had said before, the Lord told me this was going to be my husband. So I knew that there was some way that I needed to get him saved, but I just didn't know how to go about doing it, because if you really know me, I have kind of a shy personality. I know it's kind of strange since I'm, on YouTube and stuff, but yeah, I got a shy personality. So I was kind of trying to work up the courage to, bring him to church, and finally I did. He came, and he went to that church with me maybe like 2 to 3 times, and he just really wasn't feeling it. And that's how, like, as a believer, there are going to be instances where you go to some churches and you don't feel the Spirit. And as a newcomer, he really just was not feeling the Spirit there. And when you are a believer, you have to be really strong to kind of know where the Spirit is leading you. And of course, he didn't know that. So, but he did end up getting saved. But he just, was not actively pursuing God. He wasn't reading his Bible. He wasn't going to church, none of that stuff. So fast forward a couple of years. We had been together for like 3 years. And, we were still having sex, and I started getting closer to the Lord again. And my faith was a little bit more, it was a lot stronger. Like, I had really built my faith up. I don't know if you guys have heard of Heather Lindsay, but she had kind of talked about how she and her husband waited until they were married to actually have their first kiss at the altar. So I was just kind of like blown away by her story, and I was just kind of like, you know what, I need to not be having sex. Like, because the entire time we were having sex, it was good, but I would always feel guilty. There was just always a guiltiness there. And when you are a real believer and you are practicing and you got your head, in the Bible, and you're really trying to stand strong on your faith, if you are having premarital sex, you're gonna have that guilt. Anytime you commit a sin that you know that you're not supposed to be committing, you're gonna have that guilt. And every single time we would have sex, I would feel that guiltiness. So, I approached him and I kind of told him how I felt. And, he was like, Tony has always been respectful of my decision. That's something that he's admired of me. So he was like, okay, well, if you think that we should refrain from having sex, then that's what we'll do. So we were good maybe until about 4 or 5 months in. And we ended up having another slip up, and it wasn't his fault. It was on me. At this time, he still wasn't strong in his faith. He wasn't going to church. He wasn't reading. He would read his Bible sometimes, but he really wasn't strong within his faith. And I kind of started to fall off, because mentally, I think that the devil was really trying to manipulate me, and he would just be like, oh, the reason why he doesn't want to have sex with you anymore is because he doesn't think that you're attractive enough, you're good enough, you're pretty enough. He doesn't, like your body, you're too fat, you're too this. You know how the devil tries to play mind games on you and with you. And this was something that I was kind of dealing with. And because of that, and me not having such a strong, I wasn't strong in my faith at that time. Like, I wasn't reading my Bible. I mean, I was reading my Bible, but not to the point where my faith needed to be. Because if you are going to wait until you are married to have sex, your faith has to be so strong, because God is going to guide you every single step of the way as you are making that journey to the altar. So, like I said, my faith was not strong, and Tony was getting ready to go on a Vegas trip with his friends. And at this time, he never pressured me. He never said, hey, you need to give me that booty because I'm not sticking around if you don't. He never said anything of that nature to me. He was very respectful. He was very kind. And, and another one of the things that I was just thinking, like, oh my gosh, is he cheating on me? Because this is just too good to be true. And it was more of the devil trying to play those mind games. You know, oh, he got a side piece. You know, don't worry about him. Go through his phone, do this, do that. You got to check in on him, follow him, go to his house. You know, just crazy stuff. And I really had to stay prayerful, because the devil was trying to trick me into thinking that, you know, Tony was doing other stuff aside from genuinely respecting me and what it was that I was trying to do, which was exactly what he was trying to do. He was just genuinely respecting me. So, you know, he was getting ready to go to this Vegas trip, and my mind was playing all type of games on me. You know, the devil was really just working his way in my mind, and I ended up sleeping with Tony once again. And this time, this went on for about another 2 years until we actually got engaged. So, like I said before, the road for us has not been easy. And it's mostly because of the devil just kind of getting in my head and really just kind of tricking my mind to deceive me and make me think things that weren't really true. So, when Tony and I got engaged, it just weighed very heavily on my heart that we really needed to make this commitment to God, because if I was going to be with this man for the rest of my life, I needed to know that he was going to be this man of God that the Lord wanted me to be with. My faith had gotten a lot stronger, and I was basically praying on our marriage, preparing for our marriage, and just really digging deep into the Lord, because I was getting ready to marry this man and I wanted to be 100% sure. I was fasting and just all of that. And, you know, I spoke to him, and my parents kind of made it like very, you know, clear to me that I needed to go to marriage counseling. We needed to go to marriage counseling, and we needed to make sure that we go to marriage counseling with a pastor that is going to marry us. So that is exactly what we did. We found a church that was actually in the neighborhood in which he lives, that I used to go to as a little girl. And we started going to this church, and we fell in love with the pastor and his wife and, you know, the congregation. And it just felt like home. It just felt like this is where we're supposed to be. So we started going to marriage counseling with them. They started counseling us. And pretty much after that, both of our faith got stronger. We were seeking the Lord. We were praying together. We were reading our Bibles together. And we pretty much knew that this is where we needed to be. And we collectively, both of us at the time, made the decision to refrain from having sex until we were married. The reason why I think that it worked the last time was because we were both being very strong and diligent about it. We were both praying about it. We both prayed about it together. We were both actively in the church and going to church and reading our Bibles. And we had decided on making this decision together with the Lord. The previous 2 times, it was just me making the decision with the Lord, but I wasn't really including Tony in a way that his faith was strong. And because once he actively started pursuing the Lord and his faith got stronger, he really just became this man of God that I just was like blown away with, because the Lord really just did a work in him. And I was just like, wow, this is my husband. This is the man that God has been this is the man that God has been wanting me to marry all along. And he had to become that man before we could get married. And he just encouraged me in such a way that we never had temptation the way we had before. And my faith was stronger, his was stronger. And, you know, we were both actively pursuing the Lord, so it just worked. So that's the main reason why we were able to make it the last time. And that time frame in our life lasted about 9 months. So we went a good 9 months strong without, you know, having sex. And we did wait until our wedding night to finally be together. So that's pretty much our story. You know, we did not have a smooth path to the finish line, But God was on our side the entire time. God was rooting for us. God was praying for us. And of course, now that we are married, we've been married now for about 3 months, and we are still going to church and, you know, praying together and all that other good stuff. And that time frame in our life has really just kind of taught us about the struggles that you can go through in a relationship. And I believe that it was preparing us for our marriage. So even though we struggled with it for the first couple of years that we were together, you know, we were able to turn things around and, you know, finish strong. And that's what, you know, being a believer is all about. Like, you might not get it right the first couple of times, but you will get it right eventually if you just continue to press in and pray and do what it is that, you know, you believe God has called you to do or wants you to do. And, you know, like I said, everybody's story is not like ours. Many people have many different stories about their waiting experience. You know, I have a friend of mine who did the same thing, and her story is completely different. So, you know, your story is your own, and you have to do what you think is best, and you have to pray about it and just really actively pursue the Lord and make sure that this is something that you want to do. Alright guys, so I hope that you enjoyed my story time. I will be sharing a lot more dealing with Tony and I and how we met and just growing our faith and getting closer with the Lord and just our lives in general. So if you are interested in subscribing, be sure to hit that subscribe button right now, and we will talk to you in the next one, or I will talk to you in the next one, whichever one. Alright, ciao.